Hello, hello, hello. It's Moscow Mitch Monday. Welcome. We are your Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee. We are incredibly excited to be back talking to you about what's going on with our political race here in Kentucky, how Mitch is faring in his fight to get reelected for the 35th consecutive time. No, just 36 years in the Senate is where how long he's been there. We are, of course, focused on telling you why we shouldn't do that and how he is failing us as a Commonwealth, how his policies hurt us. And I think we've got some great stuff for you today to tell you that story. So we got a bunch of stories, Mitch in the news. Every single week, he's in the news. He's, the single most powerful Republican senator in Washington, D.C. Some say the most powerful Republican in Washington, D.C. Doug is going to be following Mitch's mailbox money, talking about the Postal Service a lot today. We're going to be joined by Tamarra Wieder, who is the Kentucky State Director for Planned Parenthood Advocates of Indiana and Kentucky. That's a long name for an organization, but the coolest thing about that long name is that it then gets to be PINK as the acronym, or PINK. So that we'll be discussing how Mitch fails women's health here in Kentucky and across the nation. We're going to have some updates on our 5K for KY campaign. We'll discuss both of last week's in-person actions, our Mask and Mad as Hell rally, which we did last Monday, and our Save the Post Office rally, which was on Saturday, as well as some plans we've got for future in-person protests. Whew, there are lots of things going on, and we got 71 days until November 3rd. We got a ton of stuff in the works, a lot of plans, a lot of projects that we want to use to help retire Mitch. All of these projects and plans are fueled and funded by you. So if you could pitch in to help ditch Mitch, we'd appreciate it. Head to our secure server, Act Blue, make a donation, help us do what we want to do to get rid of Mitch and remove the 36-year blot on Kentucky's political system here. Anyway, so we're going to get into it. So as every week, we start with our introduction. Who are you? Where are you coming from? And what is your protest sign say today? Because this is, of course, a digital demonstration against Mitch McConnell. I'm Aaron. I'm coming to you from Childsburg, Kentucky, which is just, a subdivision in Lexington. And my sign says today, it actually, I don't know if you can read this. Is it backwards?
It's good. Up a little.
It is 4 million prescriptions delivered daily. This is from Saturday's protest to defend the Postal Service. That's me. That's what my sign says. How about you, Nate?
Hey, folks, this is Nate Orshan coming from Kitson, my lovely home here in South Frankfort, Kentucky. And my sign this week would say, hey, Mitch, when you retire in November, maybe Vladimir Putin can find some work for you.
Fantastic. Awesome. And then Betsy, who are you? Where are you coming from? A little bit about yourself. What's your sign say?
Well, my name is Betsy Foster. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I am an activist who became very active in 2017 when Donald Trump won. Healthcare is my passion. As your other guest here realized, we've done together many times. And I'm also the co-host of the Jones Report, and I'm here tonight because Kimberly Cecil Jones is ill and asked me to step in for her. And in addition to that, I'm also part of the leadership for Together We Will Louisville and Southern Indiana, and where we do a lot of activism and those types of things. So I'm glad to be here, to be on your show. I've seen it several times. I've enjoyed it tremendously. We'll see what we can do. And as for my sign, it would be go home, Mitch. We're tired of you.
So here's the question. When we say go home, Mitch, where is his home? Do you think he's really going to come to Louisville? Is he going to because I really wouldn't want to do that to you, Betsy, as one who lives in Louisville. I would hate for you to have to see Mitch, at the Kroger frequently. That would be horrible.
I don't think he'll come back here. I don't think he'll come back here. I don't think this is home for him. It hasn't been home for him since I started doing advocacy work for the Heart Association as a volunteer, because my son is the oldest survivor in the world with his heart defect. So I used to go to Washington to lobby for the Heart Association year after year after year, and never saw him ever when I visits to him. Didn't expect to after a while. But the last time I went, I said, I'd like a letter from him stating that he knows why we're here. And that letter, which I should have published at the time, and which I still have a copy of, I am so sorry I couldn't see y'all today, but I was so busy on national issues. I had
Yeah.
6 Kentucky constituents with me.
Yeah. Well, here's what you didn't know. We learned about this from an earlier show. Nancy Jo Kemper told us if you want to get time, FaceTime with Mitch, you've got to like be able to point to $25,000 in political contributions to be able to get 5 minutes of Leader McConnell's time. So it doesn't really matter how many constituents. If you want 5 minutes to actually have the chance to talk about politics and the issue, and make sure that he understands what you're talking about, $25,000.
And as my fellow activists can support here too, you can't go and see him at any public event unless you are a paying member of his party. So no town halls, nothing. So I don't think he belongs in Kentucky.
No, and I think if we do our job, if and in 71 days we don't have to, that we will know we've got a new senator in Kentucky from Kentucky. I don't think you're going to see him. I think he's going to be in DC, and I'm sure he's going to get a great job, very well-paying job, doing something for somebody that's takes advantage of his certain particular set of skills, which is just nasty, ugly politics.
Right.
Politics for pay to play. All right.
Completely
So,
agree with that.
well, thank you so much for joining us, Betsy. We're glad you could step in. We obviously wish Kimberly, the best. We talked to her earlier. I think she's doing fine. She'll be okay. But, just taking a step back for a minute.
Disappointed that she'll be back next week, she said.
Awesome. And we are definitely excited to talk about Mitch in the News, which is our next segment. So, Mitch in the news. I think Nate is going to lead us off with a story that he found about what's up with Mitch.
Yes, thanks, Aaron. So I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there who wonder why we call ourselves Moscow Mitch Monday and why we call him Moscow Mitch. So the following story tells why. The reporting comes to us from the Louisville Courier-Journal this past Wednesday, August 19th, written by Morgan Watkins. The title is U.S. Senate report says Russian investor in Brady Industries mill is a proxy for the Kremlin. I've also supplemented this with a little research from the New York Times and Reuters. So last Tuesday, August 18th, the bipartisan but majority Republican Senate Intelligence Committee released this huge, nearly 1,000-page report, the 5th out of 5 volumes of that committee's attempt to definitively assess how Russia tried to affect the 2016 election, right? The thing that matters to you and me is the part about Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, whose companies, as the report states, quote, are proxies for the Kremlin, including the Russian government influence efforts, economic measures, and diplomatic relations, unquote. So if you're getting into any kind of business deal with Oleg Deripaska, guess what? You're also getting into a deal with Vladimir Putin. So 2 years back, Trump's own Treasury Department froze Deripaska's assets, plus those of 6 other oligarchs. And suddenly, life really sucked for our hapless oligarch. But not so fast. After a huge lobbying effort and a bunch of promises from Deripaska's companies, a few months later, the Treasury Department did an about-face and announced that they were going to drop the freeze. P.S. 2 of the people who lobbied the feds for Deripaska and his cronies were folks who used to work for Mitch McConnell's staff. But Democrats and even a few Republicans in Congress did a big, oh, no, you didn't, and they tried to pass this resolution to keep the sanctions in place. But Mitch McConnell to the rescue of Deripaska. He and 41 of his Republican colleagues in the Senate, including our junior senator, Rand Paul, voted against this resolution. And just like that, Oleg Deripaska and his businesses could suddenly do business with Americans. And that would be bad enough for Mitch to support a proxy for the Kremlin. Remember, that's per the Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee, right? But it didn't stop there. Here's where it affects Kentucky. Oleg Deripaska is part owner of Rusal, the world's second largest aluminum company. And just a few months later, April 2019, they announced that they'd be investing $200 million in a new aluminum rolling mill being built in eastern Kentucky by Brady Industries. Mitch, with a straight face, continues to say that there's no connection between the two. But come on, this is a quid pro quo hiding in plain view. by not allowing Congress to reinstate sanctions on a guy whose companies, let's quote that quote again, are proxies for the Kremlin, including for Russian government influence efforts, economic measures, and diplomatic relations. And then by pretending that the same guy's huge investment in Kentucky isn't a reward for a job well done, Mitch McConnell has shown Kentuckians that, amongst other things, he is a stooge for Russia. And that, my friends, is why we keep calling him Moscow Mitch. And for Moscow Mitch Monday, I'm Nate Orshan.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nate. I think it's good to remind people, why it's not just that we like alliteration, right? I mean, I'm a fan of alliteration. If you know me, I like, Moscow Mitch Monday, please. But yeah, we wouldn't just throw that on there without any thought or any reasoning. There are a number of reasons why Mitch deserves that Moscow moniker. More alliteration right there. All right, and our next story comes to us from Betsy Foster, who not only is she able to tell a little bit about this news story, but it's her news story. She created it with the Jones Report, which of course Kimberly Cecil Jones co-hosts with her. So Betsy, tell us about it.
Well, we were very fortunate. We don't call it an interview. We call it a conversation between girls. And we were able to have Amy on our show on Saturday for a full hour to talk about the side of Amy that most people don't see, Amy as a person, and why she decided to run for office. And I hope that people will tune in and look at it, or just listen to it. If you don't want to look at us, we're okay with that too. And listen and see who she really is. So one of the first questions that we talked about was, Amy talks about being a pilot. We all know that she was a pilot in the Air Force. Some of you may know that it was her choice, or she wanted to be a pilot from the time she was a little girl. And she knew that it wasn't possible when her parents finally told her, honey, that's not a thing, that can't happen. But they didn't tell her to give up on her goals. So she started writing to Congress. She wrote to Mitch McConnell. Guess what? Mitch McConnell never replied to this 12-year-old little girl, but she still had these feelings that she wanted to be a pilot. She didn't know why it could be impossible to do. And in her own way, she continued to write and ask everyone in Congress to please allow women to be, or girls or women at the time, to be pilots. Lo and behold, in 1992, thanks to Bill Clinton and Congress, that did happen, and she was able to achieve her dream. So when it makes me understand, because we all have dreams when we're young women of things that we want to achieve, and we're often told that we can't do those things. You need to go down a particular path. For me, I'm a little older, so it was be a teacher or be a wife and be at home. And there is so much more opportunity today because of the steps that women have taken. And Amy is one of those. She is one of those who broke through that ceiling and became somebody that she wanted to be, a pilot in the Air Force. So that shows determination. It also shows that women everywhere, I don't care who you are, a single mom, because I was, you don't have to give up on your dreams. You continue to fight for them. You can continue to ask for them. You can be one voice, but that one voice probably has several other thousands of voices that are adding on top of it that can create change. And that's what I believe we learned from Amy on Saturday, is that she can create change. She understands what the needs are here in Kentucky. She understands as a mother. And it's a much more personal side of her that we were able to see. And we laughed a lot, and we talked about things that were important to her, things that were important to both Kimberly and me, who both raised children on our own, and the challenges that we had to go through just to put food on the table, to take care of our kids. And in my case, I have a child with a very serious heart condition. So we talked about health care and why the Affordable Care Act is still the thing that we need right now, and in order to build on what we need in the future. And that was very comforting to me, because that's something I've been fighting for a long time. Let's don't throw the baby away with the bathwater, as they used to say. So those are just a few of the things that we talked about, but the big overreaching feeling from our show was knowing Amy as a person and not as an ad on TV or an ad on Facebook. And I would encourage everybody to tune in and listen to her, laugh along with us, and have a good time. I think that sums it up pretty well.
That's great. Thanks so much, Betsy. Sounds like a great conversation to check out. So I think we can throw a link in the comments so folks can watch it later. Not now, people. Don't
Yeah.
don't do
No,
it now.
not now.
Later.
It's on all the time. You can go look at it whenever. So wait till after this show.
Thanks. So the next story I'm going to bring to us, it's about Mitch at the RNC, whether he was going to be a speaker at the Republican National Convention. So this is, I think, we've got a great panel to discuss this, right? Because Betsy, forgive me if I'm incorrect here, but weren't you just a delegate to the DNC? Is that right?
That's what all this stuff is behind me.
I couldn't tell
Figure that out.
from, the signs that you were a Democrat there.
Yes. And I was a delegate. It was great. It was the first time ever. I've never done it before. So it was interesting. I learned a lot, and it got me re-engaged in the process.
Awesome. So yeah, the DNC was last week. I think there a lot of folks had, really positive impression of it. I think I watched more of the DNC last week than I've ever watched in my life cumulatively to that point. Like, it's amazing. Like, I watched almost everything. I think either pre-shows or whatever that I did not catch. Unfortunately, I missed our governor. I think he was at a Democratic Governors Association, Zoom or something. But it was, I thought, really well done. I thought that the speeches were phenomenal. I think Joe just seemed to knock it out of the park. Really high pressure speech for him, and did a great job. And, it was a well-produced event, with some compelling television. So I don't know. How'd you like being a part of it, Betsy?
To be honest, my first reaction was, the first day, I think I cried a lot, teared up a lot. Cam will tell you I tear up at everything. But it did feel like a big hug, and that there's hope. And I think for those of us who do what we do every day, it is really hard sometimes to think, are we going to survive this? Are we going to be able to change? And I think watching last week, and even though I knew intellectually this is what we do, I didn't have the feeling internally that I was really going to maybe see some difference. And I think we are going to win in November.
Yeah, a lot of hope there for sure, and a positive vision, and that kind of fight for the soul of our country. So speaking of what they are fighting against, so the RNC kicks off now, and we've got I'm sure, a very positive vision of the future. I'm sure it's not just a lot of, fear and loathing and hatred of liberals, because, they've already done that, right? They don't need to do more of that. No, that's what they do. That's what they've got.
Kim and I joked about actually sitting and watching it and just doing a little thing between the two of us. We didn't make it through the first day, so I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't think I can watch it. I don't think I can.
No, I'm going to try a little bit. I will try a little bit. I can't watch Fox News. If I watch, Laura Ingraham or whatever, and then into Tucker Carlson, the self-loathing that they inspire in me, that constantly that the liberals are doing all sorts of horrible things I didn't know we were doing, but they are so bad. I just have to stop myself, because apparently I am trying to destroy America with my agenda. But yeah,
I have to believe that there are easier ways for someone to make themselves feel nauseous, right, or nauseated. I mean, than watching the RNC, right? Drinking too much, standing and just spinning around until the room spins and you fall over.
Yeah,
that'd be easier.
That would be easier. That's true.
I agree.
And don't give them the benefit of the ratings.
I don't know, Aaron, if you know that Trump actually showed up for roll call today, and I did hear that. He needed to see that, and he started off with, and we are going to say the Pledge to the Allegiance, and we are going to include God in it. So he's pushing that whole narrative again.
Oh my God, the lies, the Prince of Lies. That's all he is. Good God.
That's as far as I got. I turned it off at that point.
Yeah, no, that's a good place to turn it off. First lie. All right, I guess the last 30 seconds. Yeah, which of course, this, I think, it does underscore, I think Trump as the head of this party, I think does make some people like Mitch McConnell a little uneasy, right? So the idea that he was maybe not going to speak at the RNC, got a lot of people thinking about, oh, well, I think that's clearly because he doesn't like Trump and doesn't want Trump to, and in fact, I think it was just a miscommunication between, the RNC, who I think were kind of throwing things together last minute, and then Mitch's staff. But I did like in this article by Philip Bailey in the USA Today, He's got Kentucky attorney John David Deitch, who wrote a McConnell biography called Republican Leader, which apparently was not a very critical biography. It was very much a go Mitch McConnell kind of biography. But he speculated via Twitter that it might be a sign that the GOP leader wants to put distance between himself and the president. And then here's what Deitch wrote in his tweet. To be clear, McConnell wants Trump to lose and the GOP to somehow hold the Senate. This would make him the top Republican, and Biden would be the ideal Democratic president for him to do some legacy salvaging last term deals with. But he can't completely cut the cord with Trump, ... yet. So I don't know if that's true. I mean, it's some amazing speculation. And I think that it's probably not correct because if you think about running statewide in Kentucky, I don't think you get any benefit from distancing yourself from Trump if you're going to be a Republican. I just think there's no value for him to distance himself. And also, so he's speaking pre-recorded segment or whatever, which, most of the speeches probably were. And why wouldn't he, right? Why wouldn't he want to stand alongside such luminaries as most of the Trump family? Although, except for Trump's sister, who was in the news, I think, this week, pointing out some her concerns about Trump's character and lack thereof, his trustworthiness and lack thereof. But, his kids are going to be speaking. I think almost all the kids. His wife's going to be speaking. It's really it's a Trump fest. And of course, if that's who you have to line up to speak your praises, it doesn't really bode that well for you. But he's also going to be go ahead, Betsy.
Yes, Tiffany speaking tonight. We haven't seen Tiffany in years.
Yeah, she has been let out to share her views. And then we've got Dan Cameron. So one of Mitch's minions is going to be showing up, I'm sure, talking about, his great leadership with the Breonna Taylor investigation. Also, we've got, and this, why would anyone not want to be on a bill with this kid? Nick Sandman, the mega hat wearing kid from Covington Catholic, talking about how he owned the libs by suing them when they, wrote articles that disparaged him and his smug, in the way of the Native American protesters there. But yeah, very, very, very positive. Just going to be a very positive experience, I'm sure, for everyone who tunes in. It's going to be a very positive image of where our country is going. And I'm sure there won't be any boogeymen from the left that are, raised up to scare all the God-fearing folks about how we're removing God from everything, right? I think, was it Franklin Graham, we tweeted, about I haven't watched all the convention. The Democrats have removed God from everything, though, and they never talk. Like, what are you talking about? Biden's faith was all over the convention, right? Because, he, as a man of actual faith, finds faith important to him. He doesn't view it as a photo op, to hold a Bible upside down and, shake it to get the Jesus flowing or whatever. But anyway, this is not the anti-Trump live stream. I'm going to rein back my impressions of that orange Trumpster fire that is currently heading our country. And we're going to throw it to our next segment. So this opens up a whole series of talking about what's going on with the post office. And we're really excited because we've got, there were a couple of great protests that happened this Saturday. And Kit, I think Nate was the cameraman for this one. And in Frankfurt, I was down in here in Lexington with Diana Cahill. We did got a great turnout there. And why is the post office being rallied for right now? What's going on with it? And I think we got Kit to have a bit of an explainer for us. So take it away, Kit.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
It's Kit O'Connor with the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee coming back at you with a video here. I'm here at the Frankfort, Kentucky post office on Wilkinson Boulevard with my spouse and Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee fellow member, Nate Orshan. He's doing the videotape. And we just took a span of the very beginning of the protest here just to show you that people in Frankfort, Kentucky stand with the post office. And I just thought I would just give a little bit of context. There are these protests going on across the country right now. with the Donald Trump and his administration coming after the Postal Service, he has crossed a red line. He has crossed a line that affects every single American. You know, and I've been thinking about this a lot because now some of the new people are joining into the movement because, you know, when he first came after the Muslims, it may not have affected you. And if it didn't affect you, it may be harder to come out and protest. He came after LGBT people. Just so you know, we're getting an awful lot of good honks here again, just like we did the other day outside of Mitch McConnell's office. When he came for LGBTQ people, particularly trans folk, it may not have affected you. He came after families and children who were entering into the United States to seek safety in their lives. He put children in cages. But again, it really might not have affected you, so it may not have felt as relevant. There are 170,000 dead Americans because of his ineptitude. And so now he has come after the post office, and every single one of us is affected. Whether it's a veteran who works for the post office, whether it's somebody in the rural areas who depends on the mail, whether it's folks who get their medications through the mail, poultry farmers who send baby chicks through the mail. I know it's hard to believe, but they do it. It could be a kid who is a pen pal. I heard a story the other day about a woman who sustained herself in rural areas with pen pals in the summer. So it could be something even as simple as that. Every American is affected. And on top of it, it's messing with our constitutional right to vote. We can't be a democracy if we don't get people voting. Whether you vote left or right, Republican, Democrat, Independent, progressive, however you vote, you have a right to vote. So this isn't about me as Democrat. This is about all of us. And so we're seeing people come out. We get the news here. You hear the honks. If you haven't joined a protest, that's okay. COVID times make it hard. There are other ways to protest. Find your flavor of activism, whether it is writing a letter to your senator, whether it's calling them, sending them an email, posting things on social media, amplify other people's voices, amplify the voices of the affected communities, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ orgs, immigration orgs, refugee orgs, anything like that that you can. Follow people, send money. There are ways to fight back. Let's get this done because it is all hands on deck right now. Love, Kit.
This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like!
Hey, so thank you so much, Kit. Looks like it was a great protest out in Frankfurt. As I said, I was in Lexington. We had a really good turnout there. Got some great media coverage. Diane Cahill, of course, who we've worked with in the past, does a great job of getting the media out, stories in a couple of different outlets, and met a lot of folks whose life had been affected by the Postal Service, right? People who rely on it for their prescriptions, people, teachers who rely on it to get their materials. So the post office is critical, right? It's actually in the Constitution. It is a service that the government provides to us as a nation. Good luck getting a piece of mail delivered from wherever you are to wherever in the United States of America for under $1. FedEx is not going to do that. UPS will not do that. It is going to cost orders of magnitude more to get that stuff delivered if we allow the Postal Service to be destroyed, as really these folks are gearing up to do. So Trump, it's a kind of win-win for him. He's got this kind of irrational anger about the post office and some his, of course, ill-informed view of a deal between Amazon and the post office, which the post office likes and Amazon likes. Like, it's like, oh, if they both like it, it must be a horrible deal. And that's the way Trump does business. And then also it's the benefit of helping him steal an election, right? Like, oh, like why wouldn't I lean into this right now? So it's a very kind of troubling time in terms of the post office. But to put a finer point on it, it's not that we're just talking about Trump and general Republican agenda stuff here. That's not what this is. This is the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee, and this is Moscow Mitch Monday. And so now we're going to hear what Mitch's role is in this, because it is significant, and Trump would not be able to do what he's doing right now but for the Grim Reaper himself, Mitch McConnell. And that's what Doug will be following today in following Mitch's mailbox money. Take it away, Doug.
I would certainly be in favor of allowing states to use the bankruptcy route.
Good evening. This week's episode of Following Mitch's Money will be about a very current topic. What is going on with the U.S. Post Office and how is Mitch intertwined in this mess? Remember Mitch's memoir, The Long Game? Did this plan start several years ago? You be the judge. The Postal Service is overseen by the USPS Board of Governors. The chair of this board is Robert M. Duncan of Inez, Kentucky. Mr. Duncan is an accomplished person well known in the Republican Party on a state and national level. His son, Robert M. Duncan Jr., is a United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Kentucky. Duncan has contributed over $20,000 to the Republican National Committee, $6,000 to Mitch, and over $65,000 to the Republican Party of Kentucky. Outside of government service, he served as chairman of the Republican National Committee from 2007 to 2009. As RNC chairman, he raised, at the time, an unprecedented $428 million. The Postmaster General of the USPS is Louis DeJoy, a North Carolina native who contributed $100,000 to Trump's inauguration and over $1.4 million in inauguration funds from 1989 to 2017. Additionally, he has contributed over $2.6 million to the Republican National Committee, among others. How did DeJoy get hired in the Trump administration? Mitch understands this process. Money talks. The Board of Governors stated in October 2019 they were going to do a nationwide search to replace the retiring Postmaster General, and subsequently noted they had reviewed 200 candidates. However, I believe the hire was set in September when Trump appeared at a rally in North Carolina where he mentioned his great relationship with DeJoy. In a news release, U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said that under DeJoy's leadership, this historic and cherished American institution will experience a bright future. Well, that was in May, and now the USPS is in shambles. The Trump administration has once again failed to provide leadership, and our Senator, Moscow Mitch McConnell, has once again gone missing. He adjourned the Senate and won't be back until September 8, 2020. So what if we have multiple real-life concerns? The post office failing, stoppage of unemployment benefits, people going to be tossed out onto the streets, evicted because they can't pay their rent, people dying due to the failure of the government to handle the COVID-19 pandemic, businesses failing. What is important is for Mitch to be back in Kentucky making the pre-election rounds to deliver funding for various projects, trying to buy your vote. So other than non-action, what has Mitch's role been in the USPS debacle? Is all of this a well-planned out strategy to disrupt the upcoming presidential election? You decide. The USPS Board of Governors consists of 11 members, 9 of whom are supposed to have staggered 9-year terms and to have representation from both parties. President Obama renominated most of the existing board for a second 9-year term, including those members appointed under Bush. Those 6 members should be on the board, but none of them are. How did that happen? McConnell blocked those nominations in the Senate, similar to what he has done with judges. When Trump became president, all of his nominations have been approved. 6 of the 11 positions, including the chair, have been appointed by Trump, and DeJoy sits on the board by virtue of his position. My best estimate is that Trump appointees are 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. These numbers provide a margin of 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Mitch controlled the nominations, Trump controls the Postmaster General, and now there is a real concern that USPS will not be able to handle mail-in balloting that needs to happen across the U.S. due to the COVID-19 pandemic. States have proven that mail-in balloting encourages people to vote. Although the Republican Party is really not a fan of the one man, one vote. This party is often called the voter suppression party, and Mitch is right in the thick of things. From an article in the Lexington Herald Leader, the USPS will play a critical role in the 2020 election, but its depleted cash reserve and new leadership have some worry. As an example, mail in Lexington has taken a long time to get delivered, and there's a good reason. 2 sorting machines have been removed from the U.S. Postal Service headquarters on Nandino Boulevard. This is not just a Kentucky problem, this is a nationwide problem. Slowdowns in delivery are standard issue. Is this the new norm? Are Trump and McConnell working together to take down the postal system? Trump and Mitch initiated this crisis. Trump tweets, "Save the post office," and then pledges to veto any funding bills for the postal system, blaming the Democrats. Mitch goes home and pledges to table any funding bills. As John Berman from CNN said the other day, we have a cluster fork. The words, "neither snow nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from their swift completion of their appointed rounds," have long been associated with the American postal worker. But if Mitch has his way, the USPS will not be able to complete its job. It's time to rain, snow, and apply the heat to the Grim Reaper and retire Mitch on November 3rd, 2020.
This partisan impeachment will end today.
Thank you so much, Doug. I love doing the Moscow Mitch Monday because I learn something every week. Primarily, Doug's segment. The research he does is fantastic and helps tell that story and paint the picture of how Mitch's, pay to play, power politics totally corrupts our democracy and negatively impacts our Commonwealth. So thanks again, Doug. So if you are now fired up like I am about what's going on with the post office and what Mike Duncan specifically, the chair of the USPS Board of Governors, is up to, you can do something about it. So actually tomorrow, Tuesday, there is going to be a big protest in Inez. So that's where, Mike Duncan is from. He owns a couple banks, as one does in Inez, and there's going to be a car-based protest there. So if you want to join Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, I think it's also the Postal Carriers Union who are working together to put the pressure on the chair of the board to do the right thing for the Postal Service and make sure that they fire DeJoy, which I think they absolutely should do, and make sure to roll back all the efforts he's already taken to take machines offline, to slow down the mail, to keep veterans from getting their prescriptions in a timely fashion, and to really just sabotage the Postal Service. So do that. You can do it. You can meet them in Inez tomorrow at 11 for a protest at noon. And if you cannot drive all that way because you've got a job or, you just don't want to drive to Inez, I'm not going to judge you for that. But there are other ways you can weigh in. Send Mike Duncan an email. We actually have his email address. You can send him a polite, non-threatening, we've got the facts. You just heard the facts. They're available. Don't, no attacks, just be polite, but be persistent, and be clear about what we want, which is firing DeJoy, rolling back those efforts to slow down the Postal Service, and to, secure our election. It seems like at least a very reasonable starting point. All right. We've also got, you can call Mitch. I heard, this is like an urban legend, but somebody actually said on our Facebook page that they called Mitch and got through and talked to a real live human. So I really hope that person went and bought a lottery ticket, because that is an amazing course of action. That does not happen, people. That does not. Usually you go to voicemail, but there's no voicemail. It's just a voice, and they will not take your mail. So I guess, very in keeping with his attempts to gut the Postal Service, just doesn't like mail. And then you can also call Rand. Rand's office is far more responsive. They do pick up the phone pretty frequently there in Bowling Green, because Rand is like, yeah, let's cut the postal service. Rural folks shouldn't get the mail every day. That's outrageous. That's wasteful. So if Rand thinks, if you live in a rural area, Rand does not want you to get mail every day. Barring the Sunday, of course, no one gets mail. But yeah, he doesn't want you to get mail maybe a couple times a week. I think that's a little outrageous. You should let him know if you think that's outrageous as well. If you also think it's a great idea, you should let him know that too, I suppose. But it seems outrageous to me. Anyway, so that's the call to action. Get engaged. Don't, this is a digital demonstration. Don't just take this information, get angry, and then, go walk the dog. I mean, walk the dog if the dog needs to be walked. But, take action. Do something with it, please. Send that email, make the phone call, drive to Inez, do whatever it takes to make sure that we reclaim our democracy from these partisan hacks. All right. So next up, we've got a very, very exciting interview. We are bringing on our special guest for the night, Tamarra Wieder, who is with Planned Parenthood of Kentucky and Indiana, PPINK, and I think really excited to have her with us and help educate us about what Planned Parenthood is up to with both this election and kind of women's health in Kentucky. So thank you so much for joining us, Tamarra.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for including me tonight.
Oh, awesome. And then, as you know, it's a digital demonstration. I've said it many times. What does your protest sign say today?
Well, that reproductive rights are healthcare rights, and they are a winning issue for Kentucky.
Nice. I like that one. Cool. Mm-hmm. And so where are you coming from? Where are you in Kentucky?
Yeah, so you introduced, my name is Tamarra Wieder. I am the state director for Planned Parenthood Advocates of Kentucky. I'm based in Louisville, so I'm coming at you from my living room tonight.
Excellent. And then how long have you been doing work on women's health care in Kentucky, and a little bit about your kind of backstory?
Yeah, no, I have been with Planned Parenthood for a little over 5 years now. Before I was with Planned Parenthood, I worked with the ACLU as a fairness organizer with them. And so I've been doing organizing and advocacy work in Kentucky for almost 7 years.
Awesome. Cool. And then, so, just to start with, what is Mitch McConnell's track record on Planned Parenthood, right? So, it's certainly something that, the Republicans across the country have been pretty much horrible. You are the worst boogeyman of all the liberal boogeymen that are out there. My guess is Planned Parenthood ranks in the top 3 of the scariest, most vilified entities, that are out there. How does Mitch treat you in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, Mitch does not like us. He has a long and storied history with taking away access to reproductive care, whether at Planned Parenthood or community health centers across our country. And so we are generally unable to get meetings with him when we're in DC or when he is sometimes home in the Commonwealth. He is somebody that I think knows our power when we turn out and vote as a collective unit. So I think we're scary to him on multiple levels, not only because he doesn't want to actually have to address reproductive health care in his state, but only that he knows that reproductive rights can be and are a winning issue.
Fantastic. Excellent. And Nate, what do you got?
Well, first of all, welcome. A lot of people don't, who are younger, don't remember a USA without legal abortion. And it feels like sometimes a lot of people of my generation or younger take that right for granted. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share with our viewers just a little information about what life was like for a woman before Roe v. Wade, a woman who may have desperately wanted an abortion but could not legally get one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I myself am 35, so I've never been in a world that didn't have access to safe and legal abortion. But I have, as a young adult, faced barriers to reproductive health care. And I can tell you that just trying to access birth control when I went to a college graduate school in New Jersey was hard enough. And I can't imagine being in a world where if seeking birth control was illegal or seeking an abortion was illegal. And we know far too well that even though today abortion is in theory legal and accessible, it's not for so many people. And so what we saw, in pre-Roe. What I like to tell people is that, abortions just didn't start happening after Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973. People stopped dying. There were guidelines in medical books on how to treat sepsis for individuals who sought to do abortions on themselves or went to doctors who were not doctors or really shady, dangerous positions. And so Roe v. Wade protected safe and legal access so that individuals did not have to die from having bodily autonomy. And unfortunately, we find ourselves in a moment where, for so many people across the country, depending on your zip code, you're faced with very similar circumstances that were pre-Roe, and Kentucky is no exemption.
Definitely. So it seems like anti-choice voices are very loud in the state of Kentucky, right? Every social media post about anything remotely political ends up with somebody bringing up abortion. I can't watch the, Governor Beshear's daily briefing without a bunch of people talking about abortion in the comments. It seems like it is a very big deal for a number of people who are certainly loud in the state of Kentucky. But give it to me straight, Tamarra. Can a pro-choice federal candidate win statewide in the state of Kentucky?
Absolutely. I think what we saw from Andy Beshear's victory last year, that a candidate who is openly pro-choice and supports Roe v. Wade can win. And so when we're looking for future elections, yes, I think it is a winning issue. There was polling done last June that showed that over 65% of Kentuckians supported access to reproductive health care services, including abortion. We know that from that poll, over 83% of Kentuckians supported access to comprehensive sex education. What I think we're finding ourselves in is that the right and even Democrats have gone too far on their restrictions to abortion and access to reproductive health care, that people across the Commonwealth know what's actually needed. They know that services need to be safe and accessible. And, in one way or another, that they've probably had an experience related to abortion. 1 in 4 women have had an abortion by the time they're 45. So, this narrative, I don't think, is winning or lasting on the right side. And the polls, the trends, Kentucky is no different than national trending on this issue. People support overwhelmingly safe access to abortion. When people start talking about abortion and, to distract from actual conversations around reproductive health care, I think it's because it's the last ditch effort they have. They're going for something that's going to spur emotion and take away from debate. And it's time that we stop allowing them to dominate those conversations and force them to talk about these issues straight up. Kentucky, out of our 120 counties, 73 do not have a practicing OBGYN. So why aren't we talking about these disparities in reproductive health care on real levels? Because Mitch needs to be held accountable for that.
Thank you.
Wow, that is not anything I knew of. That nearly half the counties don't have an OBGYN. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's 73. I don't know what percentage that is. That's clearly most of our state, most of the Commonwealth. Speaking of this Commonwealth, I seem to be seeing more anti-mask advocates hauling out a slogan that should be familiar to anyone who cares about reproductive rights. It's the phrase, "My body, my choice." So I was curious, what do you think about when you hear it being used to justify choosing not to wear a mask in public?
The irony does not escape me. It is infuriating to see that commentary on an issue that needs to be addressed in different ways. Your autonomy doesn't go so that you can compromise my health. And it's really frustrating as we're looking at the healthcare disparities too around the Commonwealth and who is being most directly impacted by COVID. It's generally people of color who don't have access, as accessible access to healthcare or testing. And it's one of the things that we see also in reproductive rights, that those who are most vulnerable are the ones who are not getting the care. And so again, we are paying the price for very ignorant and selfish attitudes towards healthcare.
Yeah, that sounds Totally infuriating, really. So you mentioned, people are talking about women's health care. They talk about abortion because it's like kind of the just the biggest boogeyman possible, right? So what though, when Mitch is leading the charge to cut funding for Planned Parenthood, what does that really do to women's health in Kentucky?
Yeah, when we're looking at, the defund of Title X, when we're looking at taking away access to care and insurances or shutting down Planned Parenthoods across the country, which he is directly responsible for. You're looking at less access to sexual health screenings. When we take Kentucky into that lens, we have one of the highest mortality rates of cervical cancer in the country. I believe we have the 8th highest cervical cancer mortality rate. And so when you're taking away access to cervical cancer screenings, one of the most treatable cancers, you see that reflected in the numbers. And Mitch, long before Trump, has been the architect of destruction for taking away access to care in his backyard. And we see that reflected in our numbers, not only for cervical cancer, but for Black women's mortality rates in childbirth. We see, they're 3 times more likely to die in childbirth in Kentucky. And that doesn't matter what their education level is, their socioeconomic status. It cuts across any of those identifiers. So when we're looking at our health outcomes in Kentucky, I mean, we already score 48th for health outcomes. When we're looking at other statistics, we're the bottom of the barrel, and reproductive health has been long overlooked and dismissed and vilified in his policy proposals.
Wow. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for giving a part of your evening to chat with us and help educate us about, Mitch's anti-women's health policies, and then generally with the great work that you're doing, and also letting us see your cats, which I also, always a highlight. And I did want to just, see, are there any final thoughts you want to leave us with as we look at, 71 days until the election? Any information you really wish people would take to the polls with them as they make these decisions?
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you again for having me tonight. One of the things that I'm really getting out of the 3 months kind of to the polls is that I'm getting fired up and I'm ready. I feel like this is our election to win, and we need help across the Commonwealth to make sure that candidates get in not only on the federal level, but into Frankfort, that are supportive of reproductive rights. We are excited to be part of the movement in the Commonwealth. So when we vote, we win. So register to vote, and you can do that now and get your absentee ballot in.
Fantastic. When we vote, we win. It's
Yes.
that easy. Vote, people.
Yes.
No, thanks again. Have a great evening, and appreciate all your time and all your important work. You don't need me to tell you this, but we're so glad you're doing it, and keep doing it.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
All right, bye. All right, so that was a really good lead-in, actually, to our next segment. So thank you very much. So as you folks know, if you've been watching, we've got a 5K for KY campaign we've kicked off. We are going to get 5,000 voters to the polls. Just us, just this little nonprofit, this little volunteer-led initiative. We are going to make sure that we get 5,000 voters to the polls that wouldn't have otherwise. So we are kicking off our campaign this weekend with our first training via Zoom. We've got 28 activists currently volunteering to do 5-ish hours a week to do voter registration. We've got a big universe of people that we know could be voters but are not registered to vote. So we are going to reach out to them. Kit, our organizing chair, is helping leading the charge there. We're working with Sandy, who's been our who's already done nearly 1,000 voter registration outreaches. This is by mail, so it's COVID friendly. Also supports the U.S. Postal Service. We know we want to do that. So this is a great program to be a part of. You can do it while you're watching, the RNC. Actually, probably can't. I get so angry and I wouldn't be able to write straight if I was watching the RNC and addressing envelopes. But you can do it while, streaming whatever you're streaming on Netflix these days. But please do sign up. We've got a link for it. Our 5K for KY campaign. We only got through, basically the beginning of October to get this done. So we're kind of all hands on deck right now, and we need more hands. So that's where you come in. please join in. Please help us out with that. And then Nate, you wanted to give us a quick update on the protests. What's been happening? Where are we going with this?
Yeah, well, so just to recap, as people who follow us and watch our live cast are probably aware, we had a really successful rally, demonstration, protest, speaking, little music playing last week.
There was some music, wasn't there, Nate?
There was a little bit of music. And, I think we've all got protest fever for many reasons, most of them righteous, because we want to get Mitch McConnell out of there, but also because we've all been cooped up for a long time, and
we're a little stir crazy. I think we might be a little stir crazy.
Maybe a little stir crazy. But so we would like to start weekly protests. Live protest, go live protest. And what we are doing right now is we are looking for input from you, our dear, co-conspirator, to vote for a poll to see what day would be best. So if you go to our Facebook page right now or anytime after the show, MMRC 2020, you will see a poll at the top of the page that Aaron has set up, and we've got a few choices up there. Like, I'm just looking at it right now. We have Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, Friday evening, Saturday afternoon, or I'd prefer a car-based option. So there's some people have already voted already, but now that you know about it, you're going to go and vote up a storm. And so hopefully by maybe even next week, we will have settled upon a day. And then we will be in touch with you through the page, through the newsletter, through the live cast, through telepathy while you sleep. And we will communicate the day that we start our live protests back up. And again, it's safe. We're maintaining safe distances. We've all got our masks on. But underneath those masks, we are smiling because we are happy to be out there waving signs and chanting and, reminding our fellow Kentuckians that they have an important choice to make in November, and it's time to retire Mitch McConnell once and for all. So go to our webpage, go to the Facebook page, and vote for your favorite day to start protesting.
Fantastic.
Over now.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I think it's actually the Facebook group that you need to go to the poll. And
My bad.
No, that's fine. And most people don't know the difference anyway. And like wherever it is, and if you're on our page and you don't see the poll, that means you need to join the group. And there's a little button at the top. It says, visit group. And then you just ask to join and we'll let you in unless, you're Mitch McConnell or, one of the moles that we've identified. At this point, I don't think we're on Mitch's radar screen just yet. So I take that as a failure. I want like a bunch of trackers showing up at every event we do. I want like people in the group trying to get our secret strategy to give it over to Mitch. I feel like if we don't have that, we've not done enough yet because we know Mitch plays dirty. I want some of my words to be cut and used in an ad, about the crazy, scary liberals, right? Because that's all Mitch has. If you're watching his campaign, all he has, I'm going to show up, outline rural community. Here is your check. Here's what My CARES Act has done for you. My CARES Act. I don't know why his head doesn't explode when he says that, because he was fighting every good thing in the CARES Act. Yeah. But whatever. And now, of course, he has stalled any progress. That was, there was a couple episodes ago that we really went into the HEROES Act and how he really needs to step up to provide some support for people who are struggling right now. He hasn't done it. They all went on vacation, didn't do a dang thing. But now he's traveling the state, telling everyone how he's giving them money and scaring them about the liberals, right? If the liberals win, it's going to be chaos and anarchy, and they're going to, I don't know, make you get gay married and, burn all the Bibles. And it's just the scariest thing. So
maybe cops will start pulling people into unmarked vans off the street, scary things like that.
Yeah. Shutting down basic services, like the Postal Service.
If they win.
Oh, wait. That's what we have right now. Make America great again. Somehow, even though I've made it horrible right now, I'm going to fix it. I don't get it. Anyway, so we've gone a little long. We're right at 8. Thank you so much for tuning in. a few things I'd like you to do before you go. So as you're trying to find our poll, looking at our Facebook page, or trying to find our group or whatever it is, please invite your friends. You know, if you've got a bunch of people that also hate Mitch, or hate's a strong word, hate his policies, hate his history, hate what he's done to our democracy, get them involved. We need to build a bigger platform, a louder, larger megaphone, so that we give people the facts they need to, you know, tell your friends. I know if you are on the fence about whether you should support Mitch or not, you know, the Mitch McConnell Retirement Committee probably isn't going to be the place you go for your facts. But you, as an emissary, you get the information, you share it with your friends and family. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. So we want to give you the tools, bring more people in, so we can, you know, spread the word that way. We have a goal. We want to get to 2,000 people who follow us on Facebook. We're not there yet. We're kind of slowly and surely getting there, but I want to boost right now. We've only got 71 days, people. I don't want to hit 2,000 likes with a day to go. I want to do it with, you know, a few weeks to go or a few months to go, and a few months is gone. So we're going to need to really get moving. Please invite your friends. Take action. Invite your friends. Also, if you like what we're doing, throw a bit of cash in there, would you? You know, secure donation through our ActBlue site would really go a long way. We have a goal of raising $500 a week to help, you know, amplify our messages, and do our online organizing, and do our offline organizing, and do our protests. So please kick in a donation. It doesn't have to be huge. You can do the 500 yourself. You could, or, you know, other people can step in, and you can just do 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever you can do. I did want to say thank you to Ken and Couchfire Media for making this production so much more produced, and saving me from having to juggle talking to guests and also bringing on images and whatever. If you look at our early live streams, man, Ken is great. Man, Ken is such a great addition and gives us such a great looking show. And thank you so much for that. And as you heard reference to, our first in-person Moscow Mitch Monday last week did include a musical interlude. We had a live karaoke type performance of Mitch Please. You need to hear it. If you've not heard it, you just go listen to it right now. It is so good. It's so catchy. You're gonna love it. You know, unless you hate the Beatles and love Mitch McConnell, you will love this song. So check it out, Mitch Please. Also, if anyone knows Matt Jones, share the video with him, because it's such a good video, and it's really just kind of almost, he could just use it as an ad for his book if he wanted to, you know, Mitch Please. Anyway, that's it. Any final thoughts you've got for us, Nate?
I would just like to say, do svidania, tovarищ McConnell.
Ken, cue up the impressive Soviet music, would you please? Excellent. Yeah. So great show. Thanks for joining us. Share it with your friends. We'll see you next week.